Razabani for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast, the day after Joshua's defeat to Alexander Usyk. With me on Zoom, Queensbury's very own Mr. Dev Sahni. Dev, firstly, how are we doing this Sunday?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm a bit tired. I stayed up like long after, just like digesting all the content and stuff. But yeah, we move. Quite the night.
Absolutely. Where do I start? Let's go to the beginning of the fight. I know we spoke in the week about what Joshua needs to do to beat Alexander Usyk, and what Usyk will be like with those changes and adaptations that he will need to make with what Anthony Joshua presents. How did you see the fight playing out in the first kind of, let's say, 6 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly nip and tuck. I had Usyk ahead, but it was a different Anthony Joshua this time. This time, I don't think in the first fight, he tasted something which he didn't like, which then deterred him, which made him sort of go within himself a little bit. And that was, I think, maybe like even in the first round. There was certainly something in the third round of the first fight that clipped him a little bit. I don't think that happened this time. So I liked what I saw from Joshua. He looked pretty good in there, and he was in it. There wasn't really a moment that he was out of the fight in those first 6 rounds. He may be losing the rounds, but he's in the fight. And you could see where he was working the body. He was going to the body, and that had an effect later on in the fight where he was able to go to the body even more. In round 9, I'm sure you'll come to it, he had Usyk in a bit of bother. But it's just Alexander Usyk. He's just keeps throwing shots, keeps changing the angle, keeps landing, and he's got a good chin. And the previous vulnerability to the body he was all right. It was all right. It took a few, but he was okay. He came through it, never winced, never went down. He came through it, and he was landing his own shots. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Everyone was expecting or asking Joshua to throw more 4, 5, 6 punch combination, because there were times in the fight when he did throw 4, 5 punches, and you could see Usyk went on the defensive and not hurt, but was in a bit of bother with the volume of punches that were coming through. I just want to jump to the end of the fight where Joshua made a remark to say, "I'm not a 14 stone heavyweight." Is that the difference? You're 18 stone. You can't consistently throw 4, 5, 6 punch combinations.
Honestly, I think that is the ghosts of Andy Ruiz. I think against Andy Ruiz, he went in there after he thought that he had him hurt, and he looked like he was hurt because he had him down, and Ruiz got up. So Joshua went in to finish him off, but he wasn't, and he was going to throw all the punches in the world. He started throwing all the punches in the world to finish him off. But if the guy's not completely out of it in front of you, he can clip you. And I think sometimes that's probably going to be something that sits with Anthony Joshua for the rest of his career. It's not necessarily being afraid to pull the trigger, but it's being mindful of how big he is, how quickly he could gas, and if he starts throwing massive combinations like that against someone as tricky as Usyk, unless it's absolutely clear that Usyk is out of it on wobbly legs, which he never was, had just been down, which he never had, then I can understand why he wouldn't commit to massive, combination punches, because he's a big guy. He hasn't got the best tank in the world, and you just know that as a big muscular man, you will gas a little bit. It just happens. So I think that's always on his mind, because when he tried to finish off Andy Ruiz, he was sort of finished off himself, and I think that's still in his head.
Round 9 was an explosive round, the best round for Joshua in the whole fight. Everyone thought round 10, he's going to carry that momentum into round 10. But Usyk just came out firing and quick and showed why he is arguably one of the best fighters on the planet.
He's a very special talent, Alexander Usyk. He has access to more gears. When it looks like there's no more gears there, and you think, okay, he's operating at full capacity here, he'll just surprise you and be like, no, I'm good. I've actually got another one, so I'm just going to switch it up a little bit. And not many can keep up with him when he's doing that. He was already boxing at a great pace. To then suddenly switch it up in round 10, 11, 12 is it's the mark of a very, very good fighter. And that was kind of surprising, but kind of wasn't. I always felt Usyk had that in him. You saw what he did at the end of the first fight, where he again switched it up and pulled away to remove any doubt, and he did the same this time.
Dev, during the fight, I was constantly on social media to see how everyone was scoring the fight, and I think in the first 5 rounds, some may have given it to Joshua. Most gave it to Usyk, but definitely by the end of the 12th, I didn't see anyone give the fight to Joshua. When it was called, it wasn't called a split decision, but when the first card was read and it went in anti-Joshua's favor, did you think, oh no, don't do this again?
It was a very surprising scorecard to hear because I scored it 9-3, and then I was being as generous as I could, and I thought, okay, but maybe if a couple of them are close. I think the closest I could have got was 7-5 to Usyk. That's the very closest, being as generous as I can to Anthony Joshua. So hearing that scorecard was very, very surprising, and thankfully, it's not something that's had an effect on the fight. It's just it's a very nice narrative to say you lost a split decision to the best fighter in the world. That's a very molly cuddling kind of narrative to keep the brand going and put a good news piece on it. I'd say it's a very generous narrative, but it's a narrative that's available to those guys now, and I'm sure they're going to use it.
Deb, just want to go to the end of the fight now. I just want to read out a tweet that you've put out so you can kind of just paint the picture. You
God,
said,
what have I done?
"Never in my life have I seen a vanquished fighter throw his
Yeah.
opponent's belts on the floor in a moody after a loss. They weren't anti-Joshua's belts to even be touching. Absolutely surreal. He needs a long break from all of this pressure. That was an explosion last night." Break down to me
Yeah.
what you saw in the ring, Joshua walking off and coming back and then going on the mic.
It was all very, very shocking, very surreal. Look, I don't want to go too in on it because I do think I think he needs a bit of a break. I don't think he's in a great place mentally, and you saw that afterwards where he's crying at the press conference. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, so much pressure on him, so much pressure has been on him for a long, long time. I think he needs a break. I think he needs a year, maybe even 18 months. He's 32, 33 years old. He's in the heavyweight division where you can come back at 36. He's fine. He'll still be fine. He needs to go and just be a young man in his 30s, have a few holidays. He's got a young family as well. Just have a bit of time where you're not worried about the next fight and people are saying, "Oh, you should retire if you lose." You don't have to worry about any of that. Just go and be yourself somewhere. Um, yeah, I mean, in terms of the actual actions, don't put your hands on another man's belts if they unless you're offered them. Uh, yeah, I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I understand that it was a very emotional time for him as well. I just feel as though if that was an away fighter who had done that, the reaction from the British public would and those within boxing would be a lot worse. Like, can you imagine if Deontay Wilder had done that after losing? And he'd have picked up, say that he had an undisputed with Joshua. He picked up Joshua's belts and he threw them. Didn't let him get on the mic. Like, he would be absolutely ravaged. So yeah, it'd be great to see a little bit of consistency there. But again, I don't want to go in on Joshua. I think he's in a bad place right now, and he needs a break. I don't like the talk of him coming back out in December, kind of thing, getting back on it. Just let him chill. He's literally just been crying at a press conference. Let him chill. He needs some time.
I spoke to Eric Molina early hours of the morning. He said someone from Joshua's team should have taken the mic off him. I spoke to O'Hara Davis about an hour ago, and O'Hara said no one should have taken the mic off him. You should have let Joshua be Anthony Joshua and let him express himself after the whole weight he's been carrying for many years. What's your stance on this?
Yeah, look, someone probably could have done with taking it off him because ultimately it wasn't a good look. There's probably other ways that you can express that. Could have waited until the post-fight press conference. But look, it's an emotional time. Me, you, or nobody can say what he should do. He's in his own mind there, and that's what he did. It's a very, very emotional time for him. Should someone have taken the mic off him? Maybe. Maybe if someone's knocking about from the team, just say, "Look, Josh, just chill on this one. We'll do it backstage or something like that." Because it was Usyk's moment, which is the sad thing in all of this. And I know he got his moment afterwards. It's just like even Joshua said himself, like, "I know I'm still in it," kind of thing. But it was his moment. He retained his titles. His country's at war. He's been through absolute hell, and that moment was kind of, well, no one's talking about it. No one's talking about that, right? That was his moment to be talking about, look, I've done this for my country, etc., etc. And we're talking about the other guy.
Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. Surely it's a must. Lennox Lewis put a tweet out and he said, Fury Usyk. It's been 19 years since there was an undisputed champion. Get it done. Now, we know Hrgovic won last night and he's closer now, one step closer to the IBF opportunity. We know Joyce Parker. We know will be sanctioned by the WBO. We know Daniel Dubois close for the WBA. This is the time now, isn't it? If it goes beyond a couple of weeks, I'm surely we're not going to see an undisputed fight because of all the other sanctioning bodies that are going to have their mandatories be called upon soon.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Tyson Fury's message is very clear, and that message is show me the money when it comes to this. So if someone shows him a number that he likes, I'm sure he'd be coming back and taking the fight and obliging and beating Alexander Usyk. Do you know how much Tyson Fury weighed against Deontay Wilder in the third fight? It was like 273 pounds. Do you know what Usyk weighed against Joshua? Like 220 something? There's like 50 pounds between them, and he knows how to use his size. There were only glimpses in there of Joshua really using his size in a kind of in an old hat way, where you're leaning down a little bit, and you're exhausting him in the way Klitschko did. Tyson Fury can do all of that. You saw the second Deontay Wilder fight, even the third one. Deontay Wilder is absolutely exhausted by the end of those fights. And it's not just from the punches he's taken, it's from being tired out, being leaned on, being just the bigger man putting his arms all around you and goading you and just draining your energy. And he's 50 pounds heavier than Alexander Usyk. Just too big. It would just be too much for him. I think Usyk will beat most guys, but someone like Tyson Fury, it's just a freak. It's just not possible if you're 220.
Dev Sahni, appreciate you jumping on and giving me a few moments of your time this Sunday. I know you're quite packed out with your schedule. But yeah, roll on. Let's see what the future holds. I know the deadline is looming next week with the WBC, so we may even get some form of official announcement before the end of the week. You just never know with boxing.
Who knows? Who knows? Look, Raz, I just want to add one more thing, right? I know people talk about Steve Cunningham having success against Tyson Fury. He did. He also ended that fight on his back, and Usyk would do exactly the same.
Dev Sahni, IFL
Cheers,
TV.
mate.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
Bye. Story, so stay tuned.
Welcome, Team Everlast, to the Team Everlast Fitness app. Download the Everlast Fitness app and find your greatness within.